We're about to hit a wall in the training, and it's a pretty big wall. It will take everything you have to break through it. Let me describe to you this wall as clearly as I can. By this point in the training, you can probably see what Zen is pointing out about tables and iPhones and such. That they are not arriving from the past, and they are not moving in time. But you're going to find it far more difficult to accept that this is also true about you. You are deeply invested in your own arc of time. You are sure that you have passed through all these various points in your life, and that these points define an arc that leads to the you that you are now. You are sure that you are coming from the past. You have a story of who you are and how you got here. The story might not be a pretty one, but it fits together for you, and it gives an explanation of how you have arrived here in this exact moment. To give up this story, to throw away this existential explanation for how you are arriving into each present moment, is scary, but that's the next step in Zen. Here's the thing. Your story depends on a two-legged volume that travels through a container called time and arrives from a place called the past. Zen says absolutely none of this is really happening. As we've been talking about, Zen proposes that dependent arising is the fundamental structure of reality. In dependent arising, nothing is coming from any previous moment. A self that enters the moment from the previous moment is incompatible with dependent arising. So according to Zen, this isn't your real self, no matter how much you believe it is. So in these next few modules, we're going to start deconstructing this self that you currently believe in, the self that has traveled through time and arrived in the present. The first thing that we're going to talk about is this container that the journey has supposedly occurred in. We're going to look at the fundamental structure of time and ask ourselves a very basic question. Is time something that you can move through? What is this region called the past that your OS is proposing? Is it a place that you can come from? Then we're going to look at the self that you think is arriving on this arc of time, the one that's entering each moment from the past. This self has two parts: your historical self, the external path you've traced through time and world, and the emotional self, the inner battle-scarred me that has gradually accreted all these years, the me that you keep well hidden from the world. We're going to ask slightly different questions about these two selves. Not if they're real or not, but are they actually coming from the past? Here's the thing. As long as you think that there's a you that's entering the present moment from the past, you will get nowhere in Zen. Because Zen says that's not really what's going on. Zen is saying that nothing is arriving from the past, and that there is no self in anything that travels from one moment to the next. When you start taking this seriously, it leads to a profoundly different experience of being alive, and that's what we'll get to in the second half of the training. But you won't be able to step into any of that if when we get to that point, you are still convinced that you are this historical and emotional self, arriving from the past. So that's the only question we're interested in right now. Is this historical and emotional self that you feel you are actually arriving from the past?